few people have picked up on some comments that Declan Rice made after the game against Gent, in which he said it was a privilege, it's an honour to represent West Ham and to be the captain of such an esteemed club with a rich tradition. And long may it continue. People have taken the last bit and they've run with it. Not everybody, but a number of people. And they think that maybe that means that he's staying. They're looking for a little chink, maybe a little ray of light that means that Declan Rice might stay. We'd love him to stay. Such a brilliant player, a world-class player. Of that, there is no doubt. But I don't think it means very much at all. I think Declan Rice is going to go and sign for a Champions League club. That much is clear. However, there has also been this suggestion that Declan Rice has checked out. Now, I don't think that's the case at all. I completely discount that. I'm not saying that now just because we've beaten Gent and we're through to a semi-final. He scored a goal. I haven't thought that anyway. I just think sometimes the team have been so poor that even Declan, with all his abilities, not been enough to drag the team forward on his own. And there's been some criticisms about his captaincy. By the way, this is not a criticism of Declan Rice's video. I'm going to go on in a minute to explain just how brilliant and wonderful I think he is. But there's been some criticisms of his captaincy. Number one, I think he's a young man. And I don't think he's necessarily got the forceful personality that some captains need. He's not Roy Keane. He's not. Declan Rice is... I always think of Declan Rice as the joker in the pack. Declan Rice has got bundles of charisma, bundles of personality. If you amongst your group of mates, Declan Rice is the one that's having a laugh, having a joke, that's jumping on the chair, that's standing up, singing a song, all that sort of thing. That's what he is. I think he's everyone's mate. I'm not entirely sure that Declan Rice is the guy that's going to go around there and give everybody a rollicking and naturally gravitate to that sort of thing. And that's fine. He's more of a lead by example. I'm not saying he's quiet. Declan Rice is not a quiet guy, but is he the guy to run around snarling at people? You might remember people like Tony Adams, like even John Terry, for instance, like Roy Keane, who would poke their fingers in the chest of their teammates, and Declan Rice isn't that. So I think there's been times when we've struggled this season where I think he's been trying his best as a captain, but he's been a decent captain this season. And to be fair, I don't think Mark Noble, at the age of 23, 24, was particularly captain material then. I think he had to grow into it. I think Mark Noble learnt an awful lot from Kevin Nolan, actually. So I think maybe that's not been truly reflective of Declan Rice. But what we've got here is we've got one of the very best midfielders in the world. I absolutely believe that. And I think the goal against Gent may have made a lot of teams stand up across the continent and take notice. It's been suggested for a little while that maybe there was become a bit of a one-horse race for Declan with only Arsenal. I just don't think that that's the case. I can't see how it would be. And before everybody says, "Oh, hold on, it was just Gent," it's not just Gent, though, is it? Because whilst Declan Rice was the best player on the park against Gent, he was also the best player when we played Arsenal recently as well. So he could do it against all teams. In fact, not the 5-1 drubbing, but when we went and played Newcastle at St James's Park, I thought he was the best player there as well. There's been a number of games. In fact, I got my little book here, my patron player ratings book, where we've got everyone's ratings for all the game. There's been a number of teams, really good teams, and good midfielders who Declan Rice has dominated over the last 2 years. However, I do think that goal against Gent was the cherry on the cake, because I thought what you had from Declan in that game was an all-encompassing performance in terms of everything you would want to see from a midfielder. You want the short-range passing, it was there. Long-range passing, absolutely excellent. Travelling with the ball, dribbling, very, very good. Burst of pace, there it was, all in evidence. Heading, outstanding. Tackling, outstanding. Interceptions, blocks, all of the stuff, shielding the ball, positioning, it was all there. Everything you could possibly want from a midfielder was there. And yes, a goal as well. And what a goal it was. And with his weaker foot. I think he takes an awful lot of stick. Not stick. Actually, stick would be the wrong thing. I don't think he gets the praise he deserves. That's different between getting criticism. I think, but Roy Keane and Graham Souness do not give Declan Rice the praise he deserves. I I think Roy Keane, sorry, not Roy Keane, Graham Souness is probably relying on the fact that a lot of the audience now probably don't remember him playing. I'll tell you now, because I do remember Souness. Souness could have some stinky old games. I'll tell you that now. And he wasn't the all-encompassing midfielder that I think he thinks he was. I actually think Declan Rice got more to his game than Graham Souness did. Graham Souness was a fine player, all right, absolutely. But I think Declan's far more skillful than Graham Souness was. There you go. Just my opinion on it. And I think maybe he does need to add goals to his game, but they're there. They are there. And I think if he does go and sign for a bigger club with more creative players around him, he'll get more goals. He really will. And I just don't think it's totally reflective. And it's quite funny trying to watch Gary Neville weasel out of it, because I'd love someone to dig it up. And this is a quote from Gary Neville, because sometimes he's there sort of disagreeing now. Gary Neville, and this would have been within the last 3 years, turned around and said he views McTominay and Declan Rice are the same, basically more comfortable at centre-backs. Centre-backs are basically converted into midfield but don't quite look the part in midfield. Gary Neville's words, all right? And so he speaks now as if, he's sort of separate from that. He doesn't believe that anymore. That's fine, but he criticises Keane, he criticises, he actually falls short of criticising him, but he doesn't quite join in. But those are his beliefs as well. And I think Declan Rice has been damned with faint praise as only being one or two dimensional as a midfielder. He's really not. He's got the lot. And for that reason, I just think he's going to have alerted every club. They would know about him already, but if you were thinking about somebody else, I'm not so sure now you would sit by and let Arsenal have a clear run at him. I also thought, not only did I think that was an iconic goal, I'm really pleased that Declan said he thought it was the best goal of his career, because I do think it'll be one of his most memorable. And I when I looked at that and I saw that goal and I thought it was an iconic goal, not only for himself, not only for the club, I mean, particularly if we go on and win this thing, that will be... We were talking about Roy Keane, we were talking about Man United. A lot of the time when they talk about 1999, the Manchester United, a treble-winning team that won in 1999, a lot of the times they go back to the semi-final against Juventus. The semi-final, really key game, because it was pivotal and it was crucial, and it was the catalyst for their season as well. I'm actually now thinking about it, I remember when Liverpool actually going to Graham Souness, they under Gerard Houllier. Maybe it wasn't Gerard Houllier. Whatever. I remember Gary McAllister scoring a goal, really, really important goal. And then it was a turning point, and they went on and they won. They didn't win the league, but I think they won both cups and they won the UEFA Cup or something like that. Sometimes you get these pivotal moments, and the cameras always pan back to it. And when the cameras do a sort of retrospective look back at how a club have done, I just think Declan Rice's goal is going to be an iconic West Ham moment. I really do. But I also think it's the moment where maybe it's forced. I know I said it the other day when Declan played Arsenal, and I thought that might have forced his value up a little bit. This definitely would have done it, because all he's got to do is bring one other club to the table, and I think it will. At that point, you're thinking, okay, now we can... I'm not sure they can be necessarily bidding more, because if he's decided to go to Arsenal, he's decided to go to Arsenal. But what it's stopped us doing is being lowballed by it at all, by a bid, and just having to accept whatever Arsenal give us. Although I would hope we would honour any gentleman's agreement with him, because I do think he's done everything. Declan is desperate to win the Conference League with West Ham. He really is. I said this the other day, and I stick by it, which was Declan Rice's best opportunity to win a trophy in his career is right now at West Ham in the Conference League. Any number of things can happen in his future career. I mean, they really can. You just don't know. And is he more likely to go to a bigger club and win trophies? Yes, he is. But at the moment, he is in a semi-final. He's uninjured. The opportunity is now. The bookies would make now his best chance rather than some imagined scenario in a year's time or something. I'm sure he'll go on and win more than that. But he's going to recognise the importance of it. And he's not only for himself, I feel that Declan recognises the importance of it for West Ham as a club. I think he would take immense pride in leaving West Ham as being a captain that lifted the trophy. I think he would... Declan can leave with his head held high anyway, because I think when there was an opportunity to keep Declan, which was over a year ago, okay, which was January 2022, And that was it was last season when we were about to go into the knockout stages for the Europa League, which eventually obviously got knocked out by Frankfurt. There was a real opportunity for the club to strengthen. David Moyes admitted he had money. We know we did. We bid for Calvin Phillips. We bid for Darwin Núñez. There was money there, and we were bidding for players. And there was also another attempt to get Jesse Lingard. I think at that point was the last chance we had to prove to Declan our ambition. Had we have spent, even if it was half the money we've spent this year, not even half the money, we spent 200 million this year. If we'd have spent half of that then, I think it would have been enough that we possibly would have got top four. I think it would have certainly been enough to see us through Frankfurt and into the final, where I think, again, I would imagine we would have beaten Rangers. I think it would have been enough and all of that would have been enough to convince Declan Rice to stay. I also think it would have massively helped out David Moyes. He wouldn't have had the massive changeover that he's had in the last summer. He would have already introduced 3 new players before. He wouldn't have basically been introducing 8 or 9 new players all at the same time. But I think that was the point, because had we have done that, had we have won the Europa League, that was the chance. We would have taken us into the Champions League. We would have just spent 100 million. The board would have said, you know what, Declan, we're not stopping there. We're spending another 100 million now. It might have been enough to make Declan say, do you know what? I'll sign on another year's extension and you can keep your 2-year option. It might have just allowed us the chance to keep him for a little bit longer. That ship has sailed, and I don't blame him, because I do think he's tried absolutely everything for West Ham. I think he's given everything, and I hope he leaves on good terms. I think he'll leave on good terms. I don't think the fans will think ill of him. Far from it. I think we know there's bigger problems at West Ham than Declan Rice leaving. The club has not been in an overly healthy position. It's been a crappy old season. I think there's been mismanagement on a load of levels. And whilst we called Declan Rice a young player, he's probably looking at it thinking, older. Everyone said I was a young player at 19. I'm now 24. I can't keep this going on. I need to go and win some trophies. So, I do not blame him leaving. I do not blame him wanting to leave. I do wonder if one day he gets to there, whatever, if he goes and signs for a so-called bigger club, if one day in his 30s he comes back and plays at West Ham. In many respects, I hope not, because I hope by that point we're not that club who basically start taking players near retirement age and stuff like that. I don't get me wrong, some of those players have been great. I remember Liam Brady, although he'd never been with us to begin with, but when he left Juventus and he came to us at West Ham, he was outstanding. But he was at the end of his career. Paolo Futre would be another example. I hope by that point we're buying the best. I hope we're buying players at that point who are in their mid-20s and the very best in their position, rather than whatever Declan in his mid-30s who, might have done his time. But I do hope he does return in some capacity. I think he's been a really good servant for the club. He's notched up a load of games. He's been a really successful product of the academy. And yes, I do think he's a product of the academy, because let's be fair, even though we poached him at 13, 14 from Chelsea, they did exactly the same to us with John Terry, and we had to listen to years of John Terry was a product of the Chelsea Academy. So, why not? We'll allow ourselves that indulgence, right? He's been a really good servant for the club. Absolutely love it. And I've got to say, I am, rather than dreading it, I'm really looking forward to what Declan Rice can add to the squad and add to the team, and the influence he can have between now and the end of the season. I'm still worried. I'm not sitting here thinking we've definitely won the Conference League. Far from it. I'm still worried. I'm worried about what other teams. I'm a West Ham fan. I have my natural tendency is to worry about results and worry that everything could capitulate at the next hurdle. But Declan Rice, I just thought I sat back and I thought, you know what? That's one thing that as good as I really enjoyed Paqueta, I really enjoyed Zuma, Antonio and Bowen. I thought played well, but the more I think about it, the more I think about that, what it epitomised. Declan Rice, what an influential performance, and I just think a massive highlight in his career, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that. A player is going to be that good and is that good. A highlight of his career is a big part of it's West Ham. There you go. As you can tell, very, very, very pleased with what I saw.